So welcome everyone. We're going to be talking about VNC and CrossLink today. This is our speaker, Brian Denmead. He is a field application engineer and he's been with us at Ganz CDC America for going on 16 years. And he's quite the tech guru. Go ahead.
All right, welcome everybody. So welcome to today's webinar. We're going to touch real quick on what the contents are, what we can expect from this webinar. Generally speaking, we're going to determine what VNC is, how does it work within the confines of this webinar, what benefits does it bring, some use cases that will be involved, how does it tie into our CORTROL CrossLink functionality. We'll give a quick demo to give you an idea of how it actually comes into play. And then we'll touch upon the CrossLink Basic as well and go over some more benefits and do a little Q&A for everyone. So on that note, let's go ahead and click on it. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. All right, what is VNC? So VNC is basically a way to remotely access a desktop that is either right next to you or 2 floors down or a couple of states over. It's basically remote desktop technology. Right now, you would have VNC is a open source, so you don't have to necessarily go out and purchase it. You can download it. But like any software, always make sure to cross your T's and dot your I's before doing so. Get a little more understanding of the security pros and cons of that software. Okay, so how does VNC really work? You're going to have a server component and you're going to have a viewer component. Your server component gets installed onto the computer or server that you want to remotely access, and the viewer is going to be on your desktop. So you become the client or the viewer, and then you're going to log into that server to view the desktop that is being presented by the VNC software. And you can either strictly view it or you can interact with it. In other words, full remote desktop or just viewing. Okay, so what are some of the benefits of VNC? So it can increase productivity. The quickest way to explain that is if you don't have to leave your location and travel to the other location to do any kind of maintenance or support on the equipment that is there, you just saved yourself travel time. So that in and of itself provides a major benefit. Improved collaboration. If a person is sitting at their desk and they require assistance and they can't quite verbalize what they're seeing, they can have the support person connect through VNC, see what they're seeing and make recommendations, and if need be, take over and control that desktop to make the adjustments or changes. Improved security. There's many ways that actually comes into play. Just to touch on just a few, the fact that the server, if we're talking about something that's in a data rack and locked in a closet somewhere, well, then the only access point is that remote access, and it's not somebody who may have a key fob or key or know the combination that gets them into that room. So right there, you've got improved security. Communications-wise, it could be done over VPN. It can be done over HTTPS. So there are multiple other ways to provide security through it. Cost savings. We kind of already touched upon that. The most immediate cost savings is the fact that there's no travel time. Well, travel time from your keyboard to that desktop, but that's in seconds, not minutes or hours. So that's a major savings right there. Remote access to the system, well, we've already touched on that. You're basically a viewer on your station, you've got VNC-server on the other station or other server, and you're remoting into it and doing what may need to be done. So industry use cases. So VNC from a support and maintenance perspective. Many industries use it, from healthcare, retail, education, manufacturing, IT, financing. They all have IT departments, they all have support personnel, and the benefits that VNC is bringing to the table for them allows them to have that support logged into systems when remote access, when that support is needed. And again, it could be anything from somebody who's using a surveillance software and they don't remember their password, they need configuration or help in adding a camera, things of that nature. From the perspective of this webinar, we're looking at it more from a security surveillance perspective, but support. So there's many ways it comes into play. Okay, so CrossLink Advanced. So we'll give you a demonstration of what CrossLink Advanced does, and then we'll kind of go into a graphic on what it looks like. So let me go ahead and switch screens here. So right now we're in the CORTROL client, the desktop client that runs on any Windows operating system from Windows 7 all the way up to Server 2022. And this is our global demo server that anyone can access remotely. Just go to our website, the links are there. We can always send it to you afterwards. But let's check out CrossLink Advanced. So I have two desktops that I've got set up. So I'm remoting into both of them. So we can see what's going on. To actually interact, I'm simply going to go down to the icon over here that looks like an arrow with a bunch of lines coming out of it. Make sure it's yellow. And now I've got interactivity with that desktop. Now, what does this allow me to do from a video surveillance perspective? Well, as you can see, I'm accessing our AI box right now, so I can go in. Let me go full screen on this, just so we got a better image. Reactivate that and go to setup. So now from a setup perspective, I can turn around and make configuration changes. I can add cameras to the AI box. There's a bunch of things that I can do from an administrative aspect. And meanwhile, this box can be on the West Coast while I'm on the East Coast or halfway around the world. I'm now in it and I can do what needs to be done. From a maintenance perspective, because we are talking about a Windows environment, well, I can go in and I can run updates. So there's a lot of maintenance things that you can do. There's also a lot of surveillance things that you can do or surveillance related. I mean, this could just as easily be a camera that I'm remoting into. Another nice thing. Let me just go back out. We'll go into that camera real quick. So you've got cameras that are installed at a site. You've got a PC on that site. And those cameras need a firmware update. Well, here we go. As long as that firmware update is on that local PC and I'm accessing that camera on that local network, I can go in. I can see, okay, what's my firmware? 176. I can say, okay, let's go ahead and update that firmware. Now I'm not updating the firmware from halfway across the continent, which is never recommended because you have no type of redundancy built in for that, but the local network does. So this is fantastic. Now, what if this is a RVM or video remote monitoring scenario? Well, those guys love to see what their monitoring agents have been doing. So the VNC Advanced also will record what's been going on with that VNC channel that you've got set up. Well, let's get back to our presentation and kind of see how this kind of works. So we mentioned you have to have a VNC server, you have to have a VNC viewer. CORTROL has the VNC viewer built in under the CrossLink Advanced functionality. It enables you to do everything we've just done, which is go in and take care of things and maintenance and add cameras, make changes, firmware, and all that other fun stuff. How do you do that? Well, real quick. As long as you have the administration, you have those permissions, you can go into the management console. You can add your channel, and we're just going to go ahead and show one that's already created. You're going to select the CrossLink remote desktop model. You're going to select your server if it's a global environment. If it's a premier environment, yeah, you won't have that. It's because you only have one server. Set up your membership, set up your network information, and you're off and running. And it's that simple. Everything else then comes into play and you're off and running within the client. Real easy stuff, very powerful stuff. All right, let's move on. So CrossLink Basic, well, if you have an advanced, you got to have a basic. It just works out very well that way. So CrossLink Basic allows you to utilize a video channel as a micro browser. So essentially that same camera and that same AI box, which was browser-based GUI, you can bring in as a channel as a web interface. So what's some of the things that can utilize that? So Office 365 comes into mind. DVRs, embedded NVRs. We already saw the AI box and the camera. What does that look like though? Well, let's go back to our client and let's go down to our CrossLink Basic. So anyone familiar with CORTROL knows we have a browser interface as well. So you'll notice automatically this is live. I don't have to activate it. And we're going to go into our demonstration. Oops, wrong number. I won't say the password because it will make everybody start singing a particular song, and we'll avoid that for now. But it is on our website, and we can always send you links. And we're going to come in, and there's the browser. And there's the interface for the client. And in a moment, we should see our camera. There it is. And what other ways can you use it? Well, if you have an access control system, this one is really cool. We got access to a Kerry access control system, and well, we can go for live events. I'll log in real quick. And now you can interact with your access control system. So a lot of customers will have either or access control interface or VMS interface. In this case, CORTROL brings you a uniformed interface. One stop, everything's in it, and you're off and running. So really, really, actually it's a lot of fun, but it's a really powerful tool as well. All right. All right, that's the demonstration for the CrossLink Basic. Well, let's go back one. Did I miss anything? No, we did that. We can do a Q&A. And went through a lot of that stuff kind of fast, but I wanted to try to give everybody a chance to have time to ask questions. And we can always go back into the live to basically address any questions you might have. So at this point in time, do we have any questions? Was things really clear? Or things that need some clarification? Fire away.
Make sure you ask any questions in the chat.
I will have to, I don't have access to the chat on here, so if you don't mind, Lisa.
You're good, Brian. I got you.
Ah, perfect. Lisa will do the honor of reading off anyone's questions for us so we can answer them. So while we're waiting, thing to note, CORTROL Premier and CORTROL Global both support CrossLink Basic and CrossLink Advanced. You do have a license requirement, so it's a per channel license requirement in it. So if you only need 1 or 2 channels, you only get 1 or 2 licenses. It saves you a lot of time, a lot of effort. If you need more than that, you just get the number you need.
We got a question.
Okay.
Any specific ports required to be open?
Good question. So VNC has a default port industry standard 59000. VNC will allow you to change that port number. So when you are setting up your CORTROL side, just make sure you put in the port. We'll give you an example. So we'll go back to the CrossLink, and we can see right now we're using 59004. So still kind of the standard, but you can make the number any number that you want that provides you with that security. From the browser, let's go down here. This is where we do our browser access. So if the device that you're trying to access through the browser requires a specific port, just put the port after the IP address. And again, the port numbers are controlled on the device side. Again, from a web perspective, it's the device side. From the VNC perspective, it's the software side. Just check with your IT personnel or your integrator who sets up the security side of things and make sure that you're matching your port on the CORTROL side to the VNC and to the device side, and you're off and running. All right, any other questions? Oh, I'll answer one that may not have been asked. From the HTTPS communication side, you have to make sure that on the VNC server side, you set up your security protocols that are required for the VNC communications. CORTROL is using the viewer. That viewer is going to connect to the server. They're going to shake hands and set up the communications between them based off of the settings that are on the server side of VNC. So do be sure to be aware of that and take that into account when you set something up for the VNC server. On the CORTROL side, you have the encoding from AGS 128, 256, HTTPS, SSL. So, and that's all the CORTROL side. That gives you communications between your clients and your servers. So they are two separate things between VNC server side, CORTROL server side, client, we all good and running. All right, any other questions? Okay, I'll offer, since it's only 11:16, I'll offer some more information. In terms of VNC, there's a lot of different ones that are freely available on the web. My personal preference, and just to cover the bases, there's no partnership between this particular VNC distributor and us, but I personally have used them for a very long time, and I find them to be very, very efficient for my usage. I would look at Type VNC if you're not familiar with the VNC industry. They've got a pretty good reputation, and they've been maintaining support for their version of VNC for quite some time. So start off with that, and along your lines, if you find something that you like better, by all means, go for it. Just do your research on anything. Okay. What are some other areas? I mean, we touched upon remote video monitoring, being able to monitor the remote desktops. So you could just use the VNC to monitor a remote desktop. You could use the VNC to interact with the desktop. Camera firmware updates, DVR firmware updates, embedded NVR firmware updates, all the stuff you can do by remoting into that remote PC that's on that local network through VNC, through CORTROL. Access control systems. I mean, we used Carry in this instance, but it might be S1, it might be Phoenix, Access. There's a bunch of different types of access control companies out there. So the VNC is not a proprietary protocol, it's an open protocol. So as long as that, you can either go through the VNC CrossLink Advanced to access that access control system desktop client on that remote PC, or you can use the CrossLink Basic URL to bring in the access controls browser GUI if that access control offers that as well. So lots of ways to really refine and create a very unified environment. Let's be honest, nobody likes going door to door. And CrossLink allows you not to have to go door to door. Or in this case, application to application. All right, any more questions on anything? Okay,
And
then
we have a comment
yes.
that says, we tested the AI box last year and we are happy with the way it functions, and it is great to see that it integrates with VMS.
Oh, thank you.
That is from John.
Thank you, John. Now, John, I'll show you something on our, since we still have a few minutes here. If you go to our global server, demo server, we have a bunch of videos showing the AI box in action. Now, they're also on our YouTube channel, and they're also on our other CBC sales companies on their channels as well. So lots of really cool stuff to check out there. All right, let's go back. And so if there's no more Q&A, we'll go to resources. So a couple of different links here where they go into VNC technology, how is it utilized. We've got a couple of videos on our website, kind of short overviews of CrossLink Advanced and CrossLink Basic. We'll just click on one real quick. So you can go through this. It's kind of a quick overview of things. It's not going to dive into a lot of details, but if you like what you're seeing, you can always turn around and go to our security link and security. And we have a bunch of videos on that site. Oop, must have missed that. We like it free. Go to videos, go to playlists. We offer a lot of information in a really convenient location. All right. Let's go back
All
to.
right, we're going to go ahead and wrap up, and we will be sending out a follow-up email with all the materials and those resource links, as well as this presentation. So, and if you scan the QR codes on the screen, it'll give you a little bit more information and it'll lead you right to the web pages. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.